Today I want to talk to you about the drink that legitimately changed my whole life. Which is crazy to say, but true. So first let's make the drink, and then I will tell you the whole story about how this drink changed my life, which does sound crazy. It does sound crazy, I know. I need 1.5 ounces of bourbon. I'm using Yellowstone because this bourbon was speaking to me when I looked at my shelves. This is a beautiful, lovely bottle of bourbon. I need 3/4 ounce of Campari, so 3/4 ounce. I need 3/4 ounce of Antica formula. This is a sweet vermouth with a lot of vanilla notes in it. So many so, in fact, that I read an article, or maybe it was just a tweet, from David Wondrich arguing that this is not really a true sweet vermouth, but actually a whole other category of aromatic wine. But that doesn't matter. It's delicious and everybody loves it. 3/4 ounce. There we go, right in there. Oh, it is a delicious aroma, full of cherry notes and cedar and just wonderful things. I suppose there's orange in there as well. And generally speaking, things are gonna taste like what they smell like. The other ingredient we need is 3 dashes of chocolate bitters. And if I'm not mistaken, the correct one to use, if you're being truly accurate to the original Samra spec, would be Bittermann's Chocolatale bitters, chocolate bitters. So there we go, 3 dashes of chocolate bitters. Crack some ice into our mixing glass. Give that a good stir. Strain that. And for a garnish, I would like a maraschino cherry. And there you have a left-hand cocktail as invented by Sam Ross. Let's see if it holds up to my memory. Oh my God, it's so transportive. I am immediately back there. Wow, wow, wow. All right, now I'll tell you how this cocktail changed my whole life. Oh my God. It's like traveling through time. Whoa. So it was 2012. I had been dating my girlfriend for a while. I was madly in love with her and I wanted to marry her. So I wanted to propose to her. And I had been working in the city, way uptown on the west side, for a project called the World Science Festival, which was, what's his name? Something Green. I met him twice, but like I didn't work for him. I worked for the post supervisor. And I was making an animation. I spent like a week, longer than a week, on this one animation that I had pitched for a thing we were doing explaining how the internet worked, kind of trying to evoke the main titles of Catch Me If You Can or that kind of Saul Bass thing. And I convinced everybody that I could do this. And so I was on the hook to do it. And I worked, and I'm not exaggerating, 56 hours straight in that office. And while I was doing that, I became possessed with, okay, well, it's now or never, we're gonna get engaged. So I texted my now wife, hey, pack your bags for a surprise. So I finished that animation, that render, brutal, killing me. Nobody even saw it, by the way. Like maybe 100 people, 200 people, I don't know. Maybe 300 people have seen this thing. I drove home to New Jersey, got in, changed, showered, and said, let's go. We jumped back on the ferry to the city and we checked into a hotel. And then we went for a walk in Central Park and I asked her to marry me and happily she said yes. And now we are quite happily married these 10, 11 years later. Let's go out for a drink. The speakeasy thing was happening. And I liked cocktails. I hadn't really had that refined tier of cocktails. You know, I liked cocktails insofar as I was not really a beer drinker. But I said, well, let's see what we can do. And we went downtown to the, I guess that's the Lower East Side, a place called the Back Room, which actually might still be in business. It was very kitsch. Kitsch, is that the right word? I apologize to the operators of that place if they're watching this. You had to go down an alleyway, like where it looked like you were going into a toy factory, and then you went this other way down these basement steps, and the cocktails were served in teacups so you could pretend it was Prohibition. And I wasn't really that impressed by the vibe. And I said, you know, there is a bar, I think it's in this area that I've heard about. I don't think we're gonna get in, but I just wanna walk by it, and who knows, maybe we will get in. It's called Milk and Honey. Milk and Honey is kind of a legend. So found out what the address was of Milk and Honey. It was on Eldridge Street, Lower East Side, and it's totally unmarked. You know, you walk by it 3 times and it's just a metal door. And then when you look carefully at every door, you'll notice that one door on this whole block, this pretty residential block, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost an alleyway, has like those gold letters that you get for a mailbox, the really cheap ones with M and H next to it. That's it. I mean, you would walk past 1 million doors in New York City, it looked exactly like this. And actually, I think I put my ear to the door and I could hear people talking inside. I was like, this must be the place. You knock, you waited, they opened the door, and they say, how can I help you tonight? I said, well, you know, we just got engaged, I said, and we were hoping that there'd be room for 2 people to come in and have a drink. They said, you know, there's a rail over here where you can stand with a drink. When the seat opens up, we can seat you. And I said, oh, that sounds all right. That's all right. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. At Milk and Honey, there was no menu. They kind of pioneered this idea. Sasha Petrovsky says, the reason there was no sign is because I didn't have permits to run the place. The reason there was no menu is because I didn't know how to make a menu. Sasha's no longer with us, sadly, very sadly, tragically. Whether or not that's true or a bit of myth making, I don't know. But there was no menu. They just asked you, what kind of a mood are you in? What drinks do you normally like? Sweet drinks? Do you like spirit-forward drinks? Do you like bourbon? Do you like gin? Are you a gin drinker? My wife answered her questions, and I think she was brought a cherry gin Collins with a drop of maraschino in it, or something to that akin. And this is the drink that they made for me. A left-hand cocktail, which was Sam Ross's own creation. It's a variation on the Boulevardier. It is bitter, but I find it much less bitter than a Negroni. It's so woodsy. There's like cedar notes and vanilla and cherry and orange notes and maybe oaky notes, right, from the bourbon and stuff like that. I mean, the quintessential perfect spirit-forward drink that answers the call of something like a Negroni and a Manhattan and the Boulevardier, and it belongs in the pantheon of martini, all of those things, all those spirit-forward drinks and old fashions. It conjures all of those elements, and it's really a drink that defines what you might call a modern classic, right? A new drink that follows the format and qualities of what we would call classic drinks, pre-Prohibition cocktails. It's a perfect cocktail. It's unbelievably good. Oh, it's the delight. It's so good. And for me, it's so transportive because I'm back there in that bar the night I got engaged to my wife. It's really funny because as we went in there, I said to her, I was like, you know, I got to warn you, this might ruin us for drinks in other places. And I think she was a little skeptical, but she agreed immediately. She was like, fuck, fuck, I don't know. What are we going to do? We're not going to be able to go anywhere else. And for me, it was like this eye-opening experience. And so the reason that this drink changed my life is because How to Drink would not exist without this drink. This drink set into motion a series of events that, I don't know, 5 years later would have launched the show. You know, people watch a YouTuber and they may not realize, but this is my job. This is my whole full-time job. And my house's sole income. And it's Meredith's full-time job. And when her wife was, you know, the editor, pretty much responsible for most of the episodes of How to Drink for a while, I think it was their whole household's income for a while. And so that's, you know, 2 groups of people. Then the freelancers who work on the show, right? Like, it's created work for them. I argue that it's changed your life because here you are. Even if this is the first episode of How to Drink you've ever seen, and by the way, thank you and welcome, it's happening right now to you. Without this drink, you would not be here. You could go back further. Maybe this drink isn't even the one that you should be looking at. You should be looking at the first drink that Sam Ross had that made him decide, I want to become a bartender. Whatever it was that caused Sasha Petrovsky to open Milk and Honey. You know, all of those effects, man. Like, sometimes you think about, like, look at one thing in your life and just try to work backwards all of the interconnected feedback loops, the butterfly moments that would have had to happen in order for you to arrive at that moment. And we're going to get into some philosophy stuff about determinism. Could you have ever not arrived at that moment becomes the next question. So there it is. That is the drink that created How to Drink. And I don't have it in hand because we moved about a year ago and I'm still finding my books, but there's a great book that covers all the drinks that they made at Milk and Honey, filled with all of their insights and modern classics. It's a beautiful book. Get it if you can. But Sam invented a lot of drinks over at Milk and Honey. And so I figure if we're going to talk about this drink, I should also talk about some other Sam Ross classics. But first, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of this episode. This episode is brought to you by you, my patrons on Patreon. If you are a patron of the show, thank you so much for your patronage. If you're not, check out the link in the comment below or up here in the corner. I am bad at promoting my Patreon because it always feels like I'm begging. I always feel a little bit like,
money, please.
And I hate that, but there is things over there that you can watch how to drink without commercials on my Patreon. We have a private Discord where there's a really cool community of people who love the show and want to talk about lots of things, and where I often go to bounce ideas off of and talk about some behind the scenes stuff, what's going on in the world of YouTube analytics and making the show, and I get suggestions for what I should include or not include in episodes. And there are exclusive behind the scenes content, things like that. And so I always feel weird about asking for that money, but you know, the truth of the matter is, if my Patreon was larger and healthier, I would have to come to you less with sponsors. So maybe that's a trade, I don't know. But anyway, check out the link in the comment below or up here in the corner if you have any curiosity at all about what I've got going on my Patreon. And thank you so much for supporting the show to my patrons. So let's move along to the next drink on the list, which is the Penicillin. You know, I'm having a lot of fun here because I haven't experienced most of these drinks in a great many years. So it's kind of fun to kind of take this trip down memory lane. Oh my God, I do love that drink. It's such a sophisticated cocktail. It's a wonderful drink. So we're gonna make the Penicillin. You need 2 ounces of blended Scotch. I'm gonna use Monkey Shoulder. I'm going off of memory, but I think this is the recommended Scotch for this. I'm pretty sure this is what Sam Ross was using. Such tobacco-y notes in there and vanilla. It's a nice Scotch. Also, the Monkey Shoulder, by the way, that is a reference to a sore shoulder that people who make Scotch, when they're doing the malting and they have to stir the barley on the ground, they have to rake it or something, I get monkey shoulder from it. So 2 ounces of blended Scotch, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of honey ginger syrup, and Sam has his own recipe for making this. It is, I think, 5 parts honey to 1 part hot water shaken like this, and then he adds some amount of juiced ginger to it. I took a slightly different approach. I did the same ratio of water to honey, but I'm using ginger extract that I made in the Perca-Colas episode using Darcy O'Neill's recipe for ginger extract. It has completely changed how I use ginger as an ingredient. I will never be going back. This is the way to do it. I just added, you know, droppers of this until this tasted the way I wanted it to. It's fantastic. It is so good. And it really lets you dial in the balance. Check out that episode if you want to learn how to make it. So 3/4 of an ounce of honey ginger syrup. Okay, and so now I will shake this drink. Let's get some ice in the shaker. Strain that into my glass. Now for the final ingredient, which is a float of 1/4 ounce of single malt peated Islay whiskey. There it is. I'm using Lafroig. Woo! That leather, man, and tobacco notes really just immediately hits the air. It's just leather and tobacco. Smells like wood-paneled humidor gentleman's club in like the classic sense, not in the gentleman's club kind of sense. Does this cocktail call for a candied ginger garnish? Oh, it does, and if you have access to that, go for it. I made up this episode this morning, so I don't have any. Can I live without a garnish? Yes, I can. Here we are. This is the Penicillin, a drink much loved. I nailed it on that one. Damn. That is extremely satisfying. It has an excellent balance between the sweetness and the lemon and the ginger and the really mild tobacco notes of the blended Scotch. The kind of the woodsy. Oh, not malty. No, there's no malt in there, but like really tobacco humidor notes is what I'm getting as the dominant flavor, which is ridden, I would say, ridden by the kind of, they might be overwhelming Islay notes, that Band-Aid, iodine, salt, and really smoky, leathery, very leathery kind of stuff. That would crush it, except we have just the right balance here. And so you get that sort of skating across the current of this balanced lemon honey ginger thing. It is a delight of a drink. Perhaps the most accessible way to start getting your palate accustomed to those peaty scotches, those Islay scotches. God, I love that drink. Damn. Probably a good time for me to bring up that this glass and all of the other glasses on how to drink are provided by Whiskey Glassware because they are my official glassware provider. You know, they approached me a while back and said they'd love to sponsor the show. I said, let me see some glasses, and I did, and I loved them, and now it's all I really use on the show. If you want to pick up any of the beautiful glasses that I use or any of the other glasses that they make, use the link in the pinned comment below or up here in the corner. Use code HowToDrink15 at checkout. You're going to get 15% off of your order at Whiskey. Definitely get yourself a whiskey glass and fill it with a Penicillin because you will not regret it. Oh, I'm having so much fun traveling back to the mid-2000s. And of course, all the way through this episode, we have to continually thank Sam Ross for everything this episode represents, both the birth of How to Drink, my ability to pay my bills and put food on the table, your ability to watch this show, Meredith's ability to pay the bills and put the food on the table, a few other people as well. Also, my life changed for the better. You know, I got married and wound up with children and all the wonderful things that happened from then. So again, thank you, Sam. You one of the angels of my life. It's such a weird thing to say. Let's make another Sam Ross classic from Milk and Honey. We're gonna make the Paper Plane. All right, this is a shake and drink and it's all equal parts. And my notes say 3/4 of an ounce of each, but I'm just gonna round that up to 1 ounce because it's easier for me in a bunch of ways and it gives me more control over the wash line in my glass. 1 ounce of bourbon. And I would never say that one bourbon is as good as another, but I would say that a good bourbon is fine. 1 ounce of Amaro Nonino, which is in my experience, it's a particularly orangey Amaro. It's obviously, here, let's just give it a quick taste. Very orangey. I mean, you could probably use it as a replacement for Curacao, and now I'm wondering what it would be like in a Mai Tai. 1 ounce of Aperol, and 1 ounce of fresh lemon juice. There we go. It's an extremely pink drink from the top. It is alive and electric. I poorly chose to put it in a glass that was colored green, which may be giving it a muddy look from there, but from up here, it is delicious looking. Garnish that with a cherry, and there we have it, the Paper Plane. Distantly, it tastes related to a last word, but really not recognizably. Because of the Aperol, it has a real kind of spritz or aperitif kind of vibe to it. It's lemony, loudly so. The orange notes of the Aperol and the Amaro Nonino complement each other. Aperol's a bitter, but not really that bitter. It's no Campari, but when we add a little bit more bitterness from the Amaro itself, the Amaro Nonino, it kind of elevates that bitterness with it, but in a different direction than it would be if you just used Campari. The bourbon is really providing the base notes here. It's there, it's not overwhelming, it's not exactly on display. It is a synthesis of flavors in this particular drink. And it's a joy. It's a big departure from the other ones in a way. This one is sort of a aperitif kind of cocktail. Whereas those feel like evening drinks to me. This feels like something you'd have before dinner. Those are something with or after dinner. But a lovely drink nonetheless, a beautiful drink, a tasty drink, a bright and refreshing and wonderful cocktail. And you know, I'm just realizing I so infrequently anymore make wonderful drinks on the show. It's a fun thing to do once in a while. I know a lot of people in the comments are always saying that they want more wonderful drinks from How to Drink, and that's what they tune in for. But you are the commenters, and you are 1% of 1% of the audience, and the numbers don't lie. The people like to see me in pain. So hopefully finding out what cocktail to use to kick off a YouTube channel is enough of a draw, because I'm pretty sure good drinks won't do the trick. That's it for today, guys. I hope that this was really fun. I have been waiting to tell the story of really kind of the birth of How to Drink for so long. And there it is, really wrapped up in this glass, this particular cocktail right here. All of it thanks, of course, to Sam Ross, the guy who invented these 3 drinks, and crafted that exquisite experience I had at Milk and Honey with my wife. And infinite thank yous to Sam, by the way. Really just changed the course of everything for me. So I truly can't thank that guy enough, or Milk and Honey enough, or Sasha enough. Really any of the billion things that had to go exactly right for that moment to happen, because otherwise where else would I be? You don't know where things are gonna take you, but you better be ready to go there when they take you. Let's put it that way. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the show, and I truly hope you did, please subscribe and like, and as I said before, maybe check out my Patreon. And I will see you very soon in another episode of How to Drink. In the meantime, in case you are new to the show or been around for a while and you haven't been getting served my content for a minute by the algorithm, here are 4 more episodes of How to Drink, or whatever it is I've decided to put up there when we were editing this, for you to check out. And thank you guys so much. And cheers to you. Good night and good luck. And I'll see you soon with another one of these. Stuck to my finger. My fingers get sticky from making drinks.